thought, man, he knows a lot about history. And as we began to talk, he finally said, well, why don't we do a Civil War park here? And this gentleman turned out to be our now Representative Tony Shipley. He was in the throes of his campaign. So here I am thinking, is this campaign talk? Is this man going to do what he's talking about? And so we kind of hooked up at that point. I had met him about a year or two prior to that on Herb Denton's farm at a cookout. And it's just been a joy to work with him. But he went back to Nashville. He started wheels turning for the park. He began to communicate with Commissioner Whitaker. And a lot of the things that are happening today is because of him, because of Mayor Godsey. Mayor Godsey's been a tremendous support. And I'm just really pleased that he has spearheaded this effort. He got the executive committee together in January of 2011. The executive committee, I'll introduce to you a little bit later in the program, they've done a lot of work behind the scenes over the past year. You kind of think, well, who are these people? You're going to find out today. What are they doing? You'll find that out today. You'll also find out that a park doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, it takes money, it takes interest. And we've had some very good support right from the very beginning. So we appreciate, Representative Shipley, what you have done to spearhead this effort. Mayor Godsey was very excited when I first talked to him about this, and I've got to say, I've got to tease him a little bit because he said, oh, this is wonderful. It won't cost us any money, will it? No, it won't cost any money at all. Just get on board and we'll run with it. So we do appreciate it, though. And I could not go any further without thanking the people who are really the backbone of our history here in Sullivan County for the Civil War. And those are the people who are our reenactors, our SCV groups. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate what they have done. They mean a lot to me. They have supported our department, the Department of Archives and Tourism, and I can't tell you how much they've donated, how much time they've donated, how they've helped with the battle, the reenactment, the Blountville reenactment that happens every June, to which you are invited, of course, between June 22nd and 24th. My good friend David Roberts, he and I have kind of linked up. I feel like David is my brother. There's also another gentleman whom I really need to recognize, and if he would come forward, please. Rick Delaney, if you would be so kind as to come to the front. Rick Delaney, he is here. Is Rick Delaney not in the...
Yes, he is.
Okay. I didn't apprise him of this, so forgive me. Rick, if you would come to the front, please. I want to recognize you for some work that you have done. This gentleman...
You're full of surprises.
I'm full of surprises. Rick just loves me. He and I hooked up, it's been about 4 years ago now, on the Battle of Blountville, actually doing the reenactment. And if it had not been for this man, we would never have had a reenactment in Blountville. And I highly credit him for that. He's with the 19th Tennessee, done a lot of work, and I hope you all will give him a big welcome and thank you for David Roberts and Marty Tant, and I have to tell you that Marty Tant is the camp commander for the Sons of Confederate Veterans for our local camp, the Stephen Powell Camp. And Marty wrote me last night, and he said, of course, Sheila, of course I'm going to be there, but he put in his email a sincere, just a couple of sentences that I'd like to read to you that mean a lot to me. He says, Sheila, thank you for your very kind comments concerning our camp's efforts in supporting your department. Indeed, we are most grateful for your support and for Sullivan County's unfailing support of our efforts to remember the incredible sacrifices our ancestors made to preserve a place for freedom on this continent. And I thought that was so sweet. I just had to read that. Marty, where are you? I thank you, and thank you for what you've done to support everything that we're doing in Blountville with regard to Civil War history. At this time, I'd like to ask Commissioner Joe Herron if he would come forward, please. Lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and ask for the color code.
We certainly welcome you to Sullivan County. Our Lieutenant Governor, of course, resides here in Sullivan County, so we don't have to welcome him as often. We just say, "Hey, Ron, how you doing?" You know. So when we go to Nashville, it's kind of ironic because everybody expects you to, be real formal and, "Hey, Lieutenant Governor," and all that. And I walk down the hall, "Hey, Ron, how you doing?" And people are like, What are you doing? I was like, "That's my senator." Yeah, he lives a block and a half from me. So, but welcome to everyone. This is such a special occasion. And there are so many folks to thank that there's just no way that I could sit here and name all the folks. I am extremely pleased to have a dear friend of mine that we grew up together, and he may tell you some horror stories about when we were kids growing up. But he has really done well and is in Nashville with AT&T. Dennis Wagner, he's here with Alan Hill, and they have an interesting surprise for us here in Sullivan County later on in the program. But you know, none of this would be possible if we didn't have a vision. And I tell you, Tony came up and talked with Sheila, and this thing has just flourished. You know, it kind of reminds me of when you go and you put a seed in the ground and you just keep watering it, and pretty soon you see that thing start to flourish, and all of a sudden you look up and you've got a full-size plant. You know, now it's producing tomatoes and everything else. You know, so it's just amazing how this thing has gone from just a thought process that Tony brought up to Sheila, to the fact that Sheila and Tony and the executive committee have just taken this ball and ran with it. And we really are very fortunate here in Sullivan County to have Sheila Hunt. I don't know how many of you really understand the significance of what all she does, but you know, it's amazing. You know, folks, if we don't hold on for our kids the history and the culture and all of the things that we're known for here in this area, it'll be gone. And she really takes that to heart. Sometimes it gets unnerving for me, the way she takes it to heart. You know, I mean, it's constantly, I need to see you, I need to tell you about this. And it's like, Sheila, I've got other things to do. Can't you do this? You know, but she is so determined that our kids, our grandkids, our great-grandkids will have stuff to be able to go back to and look at the history. We are very blessed with a culture here that is amazing. And I'm sure if you've done any of your historic homework, you will know that, you know, the Battle of Blountville was historic, folks, and it really put Sullivan County, you know, on the map. And there are a lot of history right here where we're sitting. And I just want to thank Sheila personally for all of the work that you put into this. I mean, it's just incredible how this thing has gone. And at this time, I'm not sure who I'm supposed to turn it over to, but I think that I'm supposed to turn it over to you or to my good friend Tony Shipley. I'm not sure, so I'm going to call on you, and you can turn it over to who you need to turn it. Thank everyone for being here. This is just a phenomenal day, and I really appreciate Sheila just giving me the opportunity to say thank you and welcome everyone, and especially the Commissioner to come up and visit with us. You're welcome anytime, Commissioner. Thank you.
Dr. Carol Van West of MTSU. I met him several years ago. He probably didn't have a clue who I was and probably still doesn't, but that's not important. He is a brilliant man as far as Civil War history is concerned. He's done a lot of work, and I wanted to get some of the highlights to you from what he has done. He serves as the Executive Director for MTSU Center for Historic Preservation, and he is, that's for the Tennessee Civil War National Heritage Area. He's also co-chair in conjunction with Commissioner Whitaker of the Tennessee Civil War Sesquicentennial, I did it again, Commission with Commissioner Whitaker, integral part in our Tennessee Civil War Trails program. He is Editor-in-Chief of the Tennessee Encyclopedia of History and Culture. His major program initiatives are multifaceted. He serves, or he's interested in the Tennessee Century Farm Documentary Program, in the Rural African American Churches in the Tennessee Survey and History Project, the Center's nationally recognized program of nominating properties to the National Register of Historic Places. He's a professor at NTSU's History Department. He's a widely published author in both Western and Southern history. And as I said, he is brilliant in his knowledge of Civil War history. He's informative, and someone said warm and funny. So please help me welcome Dr. Carol Van West.
The kind that built a nation. We've all just said it when we said the Pledge of Allegiance. Without the Civil War and what it involved and the issues it involved and the outcomes that came from the Civil War, we don't stand up here and say one nation indivisible with liberty and justice for all. We don't say that. We have a very different country. I think the whole history of the world is different. And sometimes people chide me for that, saying, well, you know, you Tennesseans, you always think everything revolves around you guys. Well, you know, I plead guilty. I think that's true. I think we have played a pivotal role in our nation's history, and in turn, our nation has played a pivotal role in the world's history for the last 150 years. And so much of that really does get centered back into what the Civil War meant. And those years of 1861 to 1865. So I just want to begin by congratulating everyone for their involvement and their commitment here in this community. It's important what you're doing not only for your community, but speaking for the state is very important for the state, and I dare say the nation. I was asked to talk about the Civil War in East Tennessee in less than 15 minutes. So since I couldn't even get through the Civil War in Sullivan County in 15 minutes, I thought, well, I've got to think big picture here and think quickly. So this is what I want to sort of relay to you guys today. Just remember this region's place in the overall narrative of the war. Now, a week ago, I was involved in the 150th commemoration of the Battle of Shiloh. Certainly along with Gettysburg, the two best known Civil War battles, period. I mean, when they talk about them on network TV, those two battles come up. Most Americans, if they know anything about the Civil War, they will recognize those names. But of course, I think those of us as Tennesseans, we know, yeah, those are big names and very important events. But the war doesn't have that totality of experience. It doesn't impact our families and our communities and our farms and our businesses for generations without everything that happened in between those, both before and after. Those are just two pivotal moments. But the Civil War was much greater than that. So Tennessee, for this entire year, really is sort of exploring how the war took over West Tennessee and Middle Tennessee. We've been at Fort Donelson. We've been at Shiloh. We've been at Island Number 10, way up there in the northwest corner in present-day Lake County. That's where that took place. And of course, Nashville, 150 years ago, had already come back into the Union. The Federal Army was there, and Andrew Johnson from Greenville was the military governor of the state. The elected governor, Isham Harris, was down in Memphis. But by June of 1862, Memphis had fallen. So slowly, West Tennessee and Middle Tennessee came under federal control. In my hometown of Murfreesboro, we're getting geared up to do some major commemorations in the summer and the fall and then the winter. Because in the summer, you had the Battle of Murfreesboro, where this colonel, who was really sort of little known, captured an entire Union command and left that Battle of Murfreesboro up on the square around its historic courthouse. He left it a general. That was Nathan Bedford Forrest. That happens here in July. Then we're having a symposium and event for the Battle of Stones River in the fall. And of course that anniversary happens then. Well guys, after Murfreesboro falls and the Battle of Stones River, you guys were next in East Tennessee. The war came to East Tennessee in a vengeance there in 1863. And a lot of people, unfortunately, I think this is something that happens, and people forget about that. They want to keep on just, well, you know, Stones River and then Chattanooga and then Atlanta. And I always, now for years, have been saying, well, what about the rest of East Tennessee? Taking over this region, controlling those railroad lines, controlling those old turnpikes and transportation routes throughout the region, taking control of those rivers, that was vitally important. And it was important for different reasons. The Union Army wanted to take over this region because it sent them southward. It was a great strategic value. Abraham Lincoln wanted to take back this region because he felt that most of the region was Unionist. And he really wanted to split Tennessee like they did Virginia. I get this often from my Virginia friends. Why is it that Tennessee has the national heritage area for the Civil War? And I always take great delight in saying them, because we kept our state together. You kicked West Virginia out. And they always go, oh yeah. We can't tell the whole story. Now then they typically go on and say, but that's worth it. We got rid of those guys. You know, here in Tennessee, I'm glad we didn't get rid of anyone. Because that gives us this great mosaic, this great landscape to tell this whole story of the Civil War, from Appalachia to the Delta, from the mountains to Mississippi. But you guys, I can't be more proud of how you're staging your events here. You're getting yourself geared up and organized to really take advantage of 2013, because that's when the war shifts to this region. Everyone knows about the Battle of Chickamauga, mid-September 1863. What they don't realize, that battle down in North Georgia, the sort of first shots of the Chattanooga campaign, really were also the first shots that set this whole region afire. All of East Tennessee became engulfed in the Civil War in the fall and winter. From Chattanooga to Blountville, you can't get any more regional than that. And within a week of those two battles, the whole region was engaged with the war. Of course, James Longstreet of Lee's army, of the Army of Northern Virginia, also gets involved with this battle and the region after Chattanooga. He tries to take back Knoxville. He fails there. He spends the winter in Russellville and throughout that whole region of what is now Hamlin County. We were just there earlier this year with the Longstreet Headquarters Museum in Russellville, telling that story. That starts to broaden it, doesn't it, here in East Tennessee? We've had the Andrew Johnson site for many years. Now we have the Longstreet site. But you guys are getting ready to take the next big step. We have a battlefield. You know, if we want to honor our military veterans, we do have our cemeteries, we do have the places where these men came back and, as some of them remember the old gospel song, built their cabin in glory land. They came back here and lived. But you have to have the battles where they fought. And you have to, the battlefields where they fought. And here is one of the most important ones for Upper East Tennessee. So, there's a big story here, and you guys are getting it organized, and it just starts in September of 1863, doesn't it? There's Knoxville, there's Blountville, there's all those battles that culminate in the charge up Missionary Ridge in late November 1863. But whereas the rest of the state will always say, but then the war was sort of over except for Hood's last gasp campaign against Nashville in late 64. Not so up here, is it? You've got other battles, Bean Station, Dandridge, they go on and on into 64. In fact, some of the last military fighting in the state, 1865, is in East Tennessee. So the war came here into vengeance in 2013 and started to reshape the state and certainly impacted the communities. Here in Blountville, you've got the opportunity with your Battlefield Park to tell that story. And friends, I can't be more proud of you. We have to have the battlefields to tell these stories, because otherwise people will forget. And I think one of the missions that probably everyone shares in this room today is to do what we can to make sure that day never comes. Thank you very much.